I know is that when the body dies, the love stays.
Thanks for watching Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to catch all of our conversations. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. Today, our guest is Alison Larkin. Welcome to the show.
Oh, it's very exciting to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. And, we are going to talk about your book, Grief, a Comedy, which as soon as we read the title, we were like, okay. But, as someone who laughs at funerals because I'm uncomfortable and people give me dirty looks, I get it. It's the way you process. So I thought we would start with a little bit about how you met the love of your life when you right after 50. Can we talk about him?
Well, yes. I had basically avoided love my whole life, probably for adoption-related reasons. Like many adopted people, even though I had a very happy adoptive family, I would date people I didn't like, so if they did leave me, it wouldn't matter.
Okay.
So that was my background. And I had two wonderful children. I'd married a much older man who was very good at cleaning the kitchen, but preferred to sleep in another room. And it had been a very lonely marriage, which I did leave when my husband lost all my money. So I came to the Berkshires where I live with a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I fell in love with this part of America. And I raised two children. I set up an audiobook company from just outside my back door. And I thought, that's it. Love is something that is for other people. It's not going to happen to me, but I've got a great life. I have community. I have friends. And then when my kids went to college, a friend of mine said, why don't you try online dating? So there I am in my, early 50s trying online dating for the first time. And I met a man who talked about himself for 3 hours straight and then told me what a great conversationalist I am. I met a man who, I swear to God, actually had scrambled egg in his beard. And I met a man who said, I'm a cat. I own a multi-million-dollar company. And I said, I'm terribly sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but have you been drinking? And he said, no, I'm from Connecticut. So, I
sounds like a real winner.
What a winner. Ooh.
So I thought, oh God, I can't do this. I mean, so I just gave up. And one Sunday, I'm going into the Red Lion Inn, which is this historic hotel in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, where I live, which is basically Norman Rockwell territory. And I'm asking the receptionist for a New York Times because I like to do the crossword. And the only one I can do is on a Sunday because it's the easiest. So I ask her for the paper and she says she's very sorry. But the last paper's taken, and then she points over her shoulder, and there's this man, and he's looking over at me, and he's grinning sheepishly, and he says, I'm sorry I took the last paper. And then he's handing me his New York Times, and it turned out that he had come to the United States from India 30 years previously, exactly the same time I came to America to find my birth mother in Tennessee. But that's a whole different story, honeys. Anyway, so I talked to him and we just clicked, and it was just like, I'd heard about this. I mean, I'd been in my studio narrating epic romances like Pride and Prejudice and, Jane Eyre and reading about the great romance, but thought, well, this isn't going to happen for me, and it probably isn't real. And then it happened. And I met him, and it was really love at first sight. And we just clicked. We found each other hilarious. And we were together for almost 2 years. And he came to England and met my family, and his family lived in California, and I met them. And we just had a tremendous compatibility, and we were planning to spend the rest of our lives together in California and the Berkshires and Vermont, where he lived, and possibly England. And then 5 days after he asked me to marry him, we had a perfect day, looking up at the stars, walking through the Vermont countryside, playing rummy, which, by the way, is my favorite game. And then the next morning, he said he wasn't feeling well, and it was in 2020. It was August 2020. And of course, at that time, they said, well, you've got to go and have a COVID test. And I drove him down to the medical center and was waiting outside by the car. And they wouldn't let me go in with him because of COVID. And I said, well, he has had a triple bypass. He'd had one at 49. So, please stay with him. And then about half an hour after he went in, a security guard comes over and tells me that they left him alone in a room, and that when they came back, they found him on the floor in cardiac arrest, and that this brilliant, beautiful 54-year-old man had just been pronounced dead. And so it was a sudden death. It was a terrible shock to everybody. He was beloved, not just by me. And then the most extraordinary thing happened to me. I had avoided love my entire life because I was so afraid of the worst happening. And then I found it. And then the very worst did happen. But to my astonishment, instead of wanting to hide under the bed and never come out again, I found that I wanted to live and love more fully than ever. And it was a complete shock. I suddenly felt acutely aware of how quickly life can go. And I had been friends with Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who knew my work. And he found out what had happened. And he said, Alison, you absolutely have to tell this story as widely as possible, because it will bring hope to a world that badly needs it. And so I did. You can't say no to Archbishop Desmond Tutu. So I had been a comedian, and I returned to comedy. I wrote a show, and it went to Edinburgh and London, and it was bringing a lot of joy. That's what the critics kept saying. This is something that shows that you really can find joy after loss. And then I wrote this book, and the book, which is also called Grief a Comedy, starts 6 weeks after Bhima died, when he shows up at my kitchen table as charming and witty as ever, determined to help me find love again. And it's imaginary, of course. Or is it?
Yeah, that was, what I wanted to know is, so when you were describing what he was wearing, and so did he look like in full form to you, like sitting there?
Well, it was really, it's very much imagination. But whenever I picture him, I mean, throughout the book, he's sitting there and he makes me go out dating, and he makes me go on online dates. But of course, this time he's right with me in my imagination. So sometimes I'd imagine him wearing, an orange shirt. Sometimes he'd be sitting on top of my laundry like some kind of Hindu god, telling me, for God's sakes, you can't date the guy who's wearing a toupee, Alison. No, he's too old for you. And please, at least try this one. He seems reasonable. And so it was, I don't know how much is real and how much isn't. Yeah. All I know is that I do believe that when somebody we love very deeply dies, that we can continue our relationship with them forever if we allow ourselves to. Now, how would that happen? Through the imagination, through picturing someone, not necessarily literally, or is it? How can we know? So, no, was it a sort of, I mean, look, for me, a medium is a dress size, I don't know about this stuff. All I know is that when the body dies, the love stays. And so this love story has continued. And I've been getting women in their 50s and even 60s writing to me and saying, well, my husband died, or I thought I was too old and then I read the book, and now I am going out and I am going to live every minute and I'm going to love again. And if I lose, I'll love again, because love is the only thing that matters, isn't it? And the only way we have to connect, because it's only in connection that love can find expression. So I've written this book. It's very short. It's got short chapters. It's a love story. It's called Grief, a Comedy, because I thought the title was funny.
It's catchy. It's definitely catchy.
Yeah.
You know, I think when reading the book, you talk about so many different types of love. Because there is not just one type of love. You talk about the love for your children. You talk about the love for your adopted parents, for your dog. I mean, there's so many different types of love. Why? And in my personal reading of the book, I felt like it was more your subconscious processing the death.
I agree, probably.
Okay. Because even like simple things, like you were saying at one point that he was fully paying attention to me, which in life he would have been on his texts. And I was like, that's her subconscious saying, I really wanted you to pay full attention to me when I was talking to you.
And that's exactly the beauty of when somebody dies. You can create them into the person that you really wanted them to be. Maybe
exactly.
That's a really like there may indeed be something to that. But I mean, I'm sure you too have had loved ones of some kind who you've lost. But isn't it true? I mean, with both of you, that like, if you're in a little bit of a pickle and you don't know what to do, you know exactly what advice they'd give you. You know what they'd say. And so you can sort of say, well, here's the issue, and then really listen to the wisest part of who they were. And then isn't that sort of still being with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I love to, in your story about, finding love and how you had been avoiding it. And then the one time you all got mad at each other, or you got mad at him, the caps on bottles. Can you tell a little bit about that? And then later with one of the guys that you went out with.
Oh my God.
And the caps. Yeah.
It's so interesting. You should pick up on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have always been a little bit, I don't know what it is about me with bottles, but I lose the tops on bottles. I've always done this. It's not going to change. That's just me. And I got a lot of criticism growing up from my parents, who were the tidiest people in England, and they adopted me. And I am a very sort of creative, unpredictable, spontaneous, and messy top loser when it comes to bottles. So we're on holiday in Spain, and we're on the beach, and Bhima says suddenly, Alison, where's the top to the bottle? And I said, well, I don't know where the top to the bottle. He says, well, for God's sakes, you've got to find the top to the bottle. And I thought, well, that's it then, isn't it? It's over. Because if he's going to speak to me like that, that's not going to happen. So I walked away and I looked out over the ocean and I thought, well, I cannot have anybody telling me what to do. And if he's going to become a dictator, this is it. Now, he comes up to me, he says, what's wrong? And I burst into tears and I told him the truth. And I said, I'm not an idiot. And he said, I never said you were an idiot. And I said, yes, but you were criticizing me for the tops and the bottles, and I simply can't have that. And instead of getting defensive or telling me, come on, he said, I am so sorry, and I will never do it again. And he didn't. It was another part of the book where, he was from India. So I remember once he said, oh, we're going to make the bed. He said, I said, we've got to make the bed. And he goes, well, I don't do that. I'm a Brahmin. And I just burst out laughing. I said, what? He said, I'm not going to make that. I said, yeah, if you think that I am going to spend my life cooking, doing your laundry, and making your bed. This is my precious life. That's not happening. And he looked at me and said, oh, so it's a deal breaker. I said, oh, yeah. And he said, absolutely. You take the left side, I'll take the right. So he was the kind of guy who could apologize and listen, and it was always done with humor. And so then in the book, where I think I'm off on some date, and Bhima's very disapproving of this guy because he's much too old, he has a toupee, he tells limericks all the time. I clearly don't really like him, but I'm sort of trying to find good things. And Bhima's standing by the side going, oh my God, oh no, this is going to be a disaster. This is not a good one for you, Alison. And suddenly this guy looks in the fridge and says, where's the top to the bottle? And I say, I don't know. And I was so sure that I put the top on the bottle. And he starts to criticize me. And Bhima's going, at last, it's over. And of course, it turns out that Bhima, the imaginary Bhima, has removed the top and hidden it somewhere so we could get rid of this guy.
That was another thing. You were a people pleaser and you didn't want to hurt people's feelings.
That's true.
Yes. And I mean, that is so relatable, I think, to a lot of women, especially. I mean, when we get older, yeah, we do know what we want. So I feel like we really know what we want. We don't want to settle for things that we don't want. But you still, and I know that I do this too, you didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
You are so right. You're very clever, you two. But yes, but here's what the difference is. I married my first husband because I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I really didn't even like him that much, but I just thought he'd be so upset if I said no. Big mistake. And I've learned. And now, and this is the gift of the tragedy of losing Bhima, I don't waste my time. So I have been doing some dates, but it's 3 dates and you're out. Unless, and I don't, because I know in the long run, I'll hurt their feelings more if I, don't tell them the truth. And I just think that in a world where the truth is under threat, we have to, as women, we have to lead. And we have to show our children and our spouses and our community this. Let's just tell the truth kindly. And the beauty of it is, I don't really care anymore what people think.
So true.
I just don't. And I love dating. And now again, this is a shocker, but for me, I've never been as full or as happy as I am now in my entire life. I think, again, because I know it can go like that. And if it go, and so I don't want to waste a minute of whatever time I've got left. But I don't have all the answers, however, which is really annoying.
For women, we obviously have a lot of women in our demographic who either get divorced or lose a spouse or lose a partner. And for them, they're not as interested in having another relationship.
Yeah.
For you, it almost was like you had that private time before you met Bhima, and now you don't want to find his love again. You want to find a different one. Why do you think that door was opened once you met Bhima? And it's not like, okay, I've had the love, I'm good, but you want to actually experience it again.
So I found out that love, if it doesn't last, it's not going to kill you. I found out that I am a mammal and I like to sleep with another mammal. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to have 2 legs, but humans have a little more to say than dogs do. However, I am also very clear that I would much rather be by myself. And I have lots of very good friends and I have work I absolutely love doing than with somebody who isn't right for me. So now I've learned how to say no. It's so liberating. So I was thinking, they say the happiest people in the world are the single women and the married men.
Really?
That's what they say. I don't think it is, but it has been said by some. And I'm very, very happy independent. I think when you get to a point when it's not that you need a relationship, but now I know what it can be like to be in a relationship with someone that I'm really compatible with, whose company I absolutely love. I would love to find that again, but I'm not going to settle for somebody just because they are, I like them enough. It's not of interest to me. What's of interest is my work, is doing podcasts like this, getting to meet people like you. I love your podcast. The work you're doing is so important. Now, if I was busy having to cook for some guy, I might not have time. Um, I love the idea of finding another soulmate, but I'm not really looking. I just think it's going to happen. I'm just not sure when. Maybe when the work's finished. But Desmond Tutu did say, I want you to know, Alison, that I have asked God to find you another soulmate, and she said she is on the case.
Yeah, and I love that too. I mean, your story, it's so the things that have happened in your life. It's really fascinating, just how
Right, you just kind of throw out that you're friends with Desmond
how
Tutu.
you met Desmond Tutu. How crazy is that you get to go to lunch?
He really was the guy behind the book. I mean, he was the one who told me to do it. And I probably wouldn't have done it because you know what it's like. It's so much work writing a book. But now I'm excited because I had this email at this very morning from a woman who had lost her husband. And she said she'd read Grief, a Comedy. And she said, Alison, I wasn't even thinking of dating again. I wasn't even thinking of loving again. And I just thought, why not? Having read it, and she did, and she said, I've met a new true love. So I just think, if just for her alone, perhaps this has been worth it, because we don't need to hide. But love, of course, can be everywhere. It's not, as you say, it's not just a man. It's love of a community, of things that we love to do, of the people we connect with on Zoom. I mean, and yeah, we all have a choice every day. And my great belief is that in a divided world, we must find our common humanity. And everybody loves, lives, loses people, and finds ways to move forward. And that was what's so exciting when I give speeches or I do my show or I meet other people. They're from different political views, they're from different races, different backgrounds, different ages. But we come together in this place of being very, very human. And love is part of us, of being human. And one of the ladies I said to, when she came to my show, I said, look, can I just ask you all, did you have an ongoing relationship and a sense of your beloved after they died? Because a lot of people were coming from around the country. This was in London, who'd heard me on the BBC. And they came. And I said, well, did you feel the ongoing relationship? And one woman bursts into tears. And she said, thank you for asking the question. And another woman says, oh my God, she said, all right, I've not told anybody this before, but every night I set the table and I have a right old chat with my husband, Wilf, and he's been dead for 4 years. And then we're suddenly all talking and about things we have in common. And that is what I love about your podcast, is what I love about this sort of discussion, because these are the things that bring us as women together. And that's what matters. The rest is noise, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
we
just
agree.
that sense of community. And when you feel like you're not alone, it doesn't matter the situation. But when you feel, especially grief, when you feel like you're not alone, that just lifts something in you. And I find it so amazing too that you faced your biggest fear was losing love.
Yes.
And that, and that when you face your biggest fear and you hear that about all kinds of things like emergent, just immersing yourself into something that you fear so much. But then when the biggest fear happens, that you can go on. That was a really big thing I got from this book, was that you can go on and you can be happy, and you could be very happy. Yes.
I know. And I mean, and this is part, I don't know what you think. All I know is after Bhima died, I had this tremendous joy and sense of the love still with me. It's still here 5 years later. It hasn't gone anywhere. And it's almost as if it's not just in spite of the tragedy, it's almost because of it. You get opened up to just connecting with, some people might call it God. I don't know what it is, but there's something, it's love. Maybe if God is love, maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
For women who are listening who are grieving the loss of
Yeah.
a loved one, it seems in the book that you share that it's really important to talk about that person, to keep them as part of your life, to keep that love alive. Is that something you would recommend for women who come up to you and say, I've just lost someone, or it's been a year and no one talks about them anymore?
Oh,
Or they're afraid to talk about them because they don't want to hurt you. What would you say to women who are going through that?
well, I would recommend doing what I did, which was to find a grief counselor. I found a very gifted grief counselor whose name I'll share with you. Her name was Moya Keating, Moya Keating, Keating. And I spoke with her by Zoom once a week because it was the pandemic. And I was able with her, she was a grief counselor who really knew how to listen deeply. And it saved me. So I would first of all say, if your family and friends can't talk about it with you, find a group or an individual person who can. There are some wonderful grief counselors who will, and there's a lot online as well. So I would say immediately, I get it. And the person who I could talk to was Moya. And also, I wish it hadn't been in the pandemic, because I couldn't go to a grief group. But oh my goodness, if I could have done it, would have helped me enormously. And I would say, connect with other people, and I mean, there's no one right way to do it. I know I spent a lot of time lying on the sofa, curled up in a ball, at the beginning, and I was very numb. And then I heard his voice, imaginary voice, in my head saying, Alison, get up off the couch and get in the best physical shape of your life. So for me, I thought, well, I haven't had any choice as to whether he dies. I haven't had any choice about anything, but I can choose how I respond to this. And I thought, if I can get into really good physical shape, avoid sugar because it always makes me crash and get depressed after I have a bar of chocolate, and just look after my body, then that's something I can control. And this was the message that Desmond Tutu taught me, and that I learnt. I can't control what happens to me, but I can control how I respond to it. So for me, and that's how I live now in every way, because we do have a choice in how we respond to what's around us. We have a choice in what we think about, in what we focus on. So another thing I would say to the grieving person is, go to the Book of Joy. It's the Dalai Lama and it's Desmond Tutu, and there's actually an audio book of it. And what I would do at night, I was suddenly on my own at night, and I would turn the audiobook on as I was falling asleep. And then as I inevitably woke up in the night, I would hear either Desmond Tutu or the Dalai Lama sort of talking about love and about compassion and about great spiritual ideas that are in this world along with the rest of everything else. And so I started to turn my attention towards things that would nourish and be good, because that's where I have a choice. This is the other thing. I was talking to my friend Sarah this morning and saying, I scroll too much on my phone. And I look at all this stuff, and I've got to stop this. It's not like anyone's forcing me to scroll on my phone. And I do have a choice. I could scroll, and spend the whole day like that with, on an iPhone. Or I could look out the window. Oh my goodness, there's a heron out there. Wait, look, there's a child who is playing and needs someone to throw a ball with them. And oh wait, there's a member of my community who may need help right now. And hey, maybe I could listen to them for a while. But we've got the choice. We've got that choice. And it's not easy because it's very addictive, the technology in the iPhone. But I think that's anyway, I'm rambling.
No, that is
No.
something I need to hear right now.
I think we all do, honestly,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
not putting your,
gets
it's
me
safe.
triggered.
It passes time. It's safe. You almost
It's
become
safe, but not mentally safe
no,
for
not
me
mentally
sometimes.
safe, but like you don't have to. You have to put effort into being out in the world and speaking with people and connecting. And the phone makes it way too easy not to do that. It gives you the option of saying, I don't need to do that, but yet you're isolating yourself.
And it robs you of the time. Like I was just thinking, everybody keeps telling me, oh my God, the summer's gone by so fast. And I go, oh my God, it has, because it has. Why? And I thought, why? And then I suddenly had this insight. Now, I don't know what you think of this, but I was thinking, is it because I've spent so much time on my phone? I mean, a lot of it's work, that I've missed the summer. Oh, do we need to all collectively go, oh my goodness, are we giving our lives away to this technology? Because it's not real connection when is it? I mean, I don't know.
It is. It is. My son kept getting, he came in this weekend, and if he saw me, I think he's, Mom, you quit doom scrolling, quit doing it. You're going to get triggered. You're going to get upset and quit doing it. And, it was great, okay, you're right. Maybe I just needed to hear him say that, is to quit doing that. And, that little just voice there, which was right there telling me. But now I hear him when I'm on it. And if I get triggered, I hear him saying, Mom, you got to quit doom scrolling.
That's right. And like my friend Sarah was saying this morning, oh, I'm doom scrolling at 4 a.m. when she wakes up. And I said, well, you've got a choice. You could do that, or you could read a book, or you could turn your attention to something inspiring, because there are just as there's so many wonderful things happening in our world. But because, that the iPhone gets you to go, oh no, this is happening. Oh no, that's happening. We're not paying attention to the other stuff. So maybe it's about us paying attention to the things that can fill us up and make our world better and make ourselves better and appealing to our higher selves, I think. I mean, that's sort of where I'm at, or trying to be, but it's not easy.
But you've done a really good job with it. I think that's really helpful that you shared it, because so many people are stuck in this grief. And it could be any kind of grief of losing a job and losing the people that you were once with at that job, or it could be a divorce. It could be anything.
Anything.
Friendships, grieving that, but just
it can be a stage of life thing. It can be
absolutely
like
empty nesting, any of that.
Not looking 28 anymore, but learning to embrace what 58 looks like.
Right.
Right there with you at 58. I am right
I'm
there
almost
with you.
December.
But it's fascinating. And it's sort of like we shed, don't we, with every stage of life, we kind of like shed something. So it's constant change. So you're right, we're constantly grieving. And I don't know, I wrote a song at the end of my show. And the last lines in that song, I mean, basically, I can walk, I can breathe, I can speak and see and hear, and I can bend my knees. I've got 2 legs, I find things funny. And if I keep my living simple, I've got enough money. I can read any book. I can eat feta cheese. There are people I love who are living. I can spend time with these. It's not the life I thought I'd live, but I'm good at changing plans. I've got a lot to be thankful for, and a likely long lifespan. And when I'm missing my true love, if I get very still and close my eyes and take a breath, I can bring him near at will. I can walk, I can breathe, I can shut out all distractions and take the time to grieve. And if grieving is the price we pay for the deep love that we feel, then grief is just part of the deal. Right? I wasn't singing, by the way. That was speak singing like Rex had.
That was, I mean,
yeah, no, I listened to your audiobook and read.
Oh,
so I followed along when you sang it last night. So, yeah.
That's so nice that you heard the audiobook.
Yeah, which is a whole nother fascinating thing about you. Yeah.
That, you're so talented. It's very clear how you would be an amazing narrator for audiobooks, which you do. And gosh, thank you so much, Alison, for coming on today.
Yes.
Grief, a comedy. I mean, I don't think we could end a conversation better than you singing us out. So thank you for that.
Thank
But,
you.
thank you for just processing your grief in a way that shares it with the world. And so maybe women and men feel a little less alone in this time. And so we appreciate that you came and talked to us. We appreciate the book, and we just look forward to seeing what's next from you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the work you're doing in connecting everybody and talking about things that really matter.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's really important work. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you.